All right, we'll get started. Thank you for joining everyone today. Hope you're having a great Friday. So the agenda for today, we'll review some of the questions. We actually didn't have any questions this month. We'll go through some updates. We're going to spend a little bit of time on some additional security. We've got some questions for everybody to answer, so we'll do a quick poll. And then Patty's going to go over the tip of the month, which is the plans and using it for your testing. So we'll get started. So the updates since the last user group, we have re-enabled test invites. So we're all pretty excited about that. And I'll spend some time going over how easy it is to set up and send those invites to all of your testers and admins during your test round. We've added a script number column on the test note page, which I'll show you. We've just separated the name so it doesn't show, like it's on the screen now. It doesn't have the 100 ED. It's actually got two separate columns, so you can actually filter on both of those columns now. And then we fixed the filter on the test script on the test note page. It wasn't filtering on numbers, so you can now filter on numbers. So in regards to the test invites, it's now accessible and live in your organization. It is only for scenario-based test rounds, and I'll show you the little icon when you go to your test rounds page. The invite list is displayed in date order by default, and again, you can filter and sort those lists as well. The invite list is populated from the roster page, so you do need to set up your roster in order to be able to send invites to your team. The ability to send and cancel invites to one, multiple, or all rostered positions is very easy to do now. It's just a couple of clicks, and you can see the status of those invites. You can also click all, or you can select individual users. And the functional test round invites will be coming soon in the future. So as I mentioned, it's only for scenario-based test rounds at the moment. In terms of our additional security, we've been working really hard behind the scenes setting it up. We did discuss strong passwords at our last user group. This meeting, we're going to discuss MFA, bot protection, and then the risk-based authentication. So we'll spend a little bit of time on that, and we'll be able to show you some screenshots on the MFA and what it's going to look like when it goes live. In terms of strong passwords, we're still on track for a summer implementation. We just wanted to remind everybody that all users will be forced to reset their passwords, and that our mate colleagues will be coordinating with the administrations to help you with the timing and everything like that on when those passwords will be reset, because the admins will have to reset their passwords first. Does anyone have any questions on strong passwords? I know we spent a lot of time last meeting on it. Fantastic. So in the background, we've been working on MFA, and I'm sure everybody knows how MFA works. You either get a text message or an email code, or you use an app to get a one-time code and type it into your service so that you can prove that you're who you are. So TransIT's moving towards the MFA to make it a stronger security system, so that people that we don't want logging into TransIT don't log in. So this is just a screenshot of your org settings, and to be able to enable MFA, you need this little tick down the bottom here. You'll see it just above the time zone. And the only way that you'll be able to tick that on is if you contact support and ask for it to be switched on. Once it's switched on, all the users will be required to use MFA. And then again, like everyone's used it before, a code gets sent, and then you type that code into the system, and it authenticates you to be able to proceed to the next step. So I'll show you some screenshots on what it currently looks like. It's pretty close to going live in production now. So it could change, but this is the general workflow, so to speak. So the first time you use MFA, you will get this little QR code. If you don't want to use the QR code, there's a little click here on the bottom here, and then you can actually use a code that pops up. If not, you can use the QR code on your phone, and then it will send you a code. When you use the click here now button, it'll show you this code at the bottom here. You'll use that code to initially pass a security test. This QR code system will only be for when you initially start the process. If you have to redo the MFA, you won't need to do this process once you've done it the first time. After you receive your code, you'll be entering that code into the system. So it's a 6-digit code. At the moment, it's currently only an authenticator app that you'll use. And then eventually we'll move across to email and text message. If you enter the incorrect code, you'll see that it'll say invalid code at the bottom, and then you'll have to retype your code. If you do successfully enter the code, you'll see here that the green message at the bottom, it'll take you to the next screen and say thank you for the code. This is just an example of using the authenticator and your code here, and you will have a time limit to use that code. That's generally how it happens with all authenticator apps and all codes. You get a certain time frame to use that code. And then in terms of bot protection, we are doing a lot of background security, additional security features, including bot protection. We do have a couple of questions for the group today in terms of how many failed attempts, should it be client defined? So should the client define how many failed attempts each user gets, or should it just be a make default that we put in across the board? And then a lockout time, should it be client specific? Or should make just come up with a time that you get locked out for a certain amount of time after a certain amount of failed attempts. And then we'll include the ability for TransIT admins to unlock users with the password reset as well. Does anyone have any questions on bot protection?
Travis,
No, but
it's
I'm
Chelsea.
guessing.
Yep.
Yeah. Do you want our feedback?
Absolutely.
Yes.
I know Patty and I chatted yesterday on this. I think we landed on 3 as the failed attempts. And as far as the lockout, I think that you all should push out your recommendation, but then if the client needs to change it based on overarching security requirements, we have the ability to change it at that time.
So make it a configurable item. So push out to
Yeah.
everybody 3, but if they want to change it to be 5, or if they want to change it to be 6 or
Yep.
whatever they can.
Yep.
But if we're saying the minimum standard should be 3, do you think they should be able to change it to 2, or that it should be 3 and you can make it more secure if you want?
Yeah, I'd say 3 and make it more.
And then what about the lockout time? Like, should it be
Same.
that?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I
Yeah.
agree.
That the lockout is set to, I mean,
It's set
I
to
think what
15
we
minutes and
heard
you can
was
make it an hour
15
or
minutes is
whatever.
a little, I think 30 minutes is fair, to be honest. And then if it needs to be more or less, that can be configurable.
It just becomes rather frustrating if you type your password in wrong 3 times. You've got to wait half an hour to log in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Gotta
I can
get it
say
right.
from the covenant
that's
side
true.
that we would not want that. So we would want client defined both for the number of failed attempts and for the amount of time.
Sorry, did you mean you might want to not use it all, or that you would want to be able to choose the amounts?
Choose the amounts on both.
Okay.
I don't want somebody locked out for 30 minutes in the middle of the testing event just because we haven't used it in 6 months. So that's not an acceptable option for us.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be, regardless of what we do, it's going to be that you would be able to reset the passwords. So it's also going to be at this point that you can choose to, I believe we're going to make it that you choose to turn on the bot protection or not as well. But that's what we want feedback back on. Like, do some clients not want any of this, or do some clients want all of it? So that's the absolute kind of feedback that we're looking for.
And Patty,
Perfect.
sorry too, I took it as the secure your session, not as how long you're going to be locked out. I misinterpreted that completely.
Yeah, no, it's how long you're going to be.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
locked.
then like 2 minutes. Yeah.
But they.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then in
no, I
terms
think,
of,
yeah,
oh,
that
sorry,
makes sense.
Kelsey, go.
No, go ahead, Travis.
So in terms of risk-based authentication, this is around the change of device or location. So I'm sure everyone knows that if you log into a different device or you log in via different Wi-Fi, then you get a notification that triggers the MFA. So there'll be a couple of questions in a second that'll pop up that if you want a client optioned, or do you want it just for a device or just for a location based, or do you want it for both? So does anyone have any feedback on that? I'm just going to load the poll. I know a couple of you have already answered the questions. While we do that, Patty, did you want to go over the tip of the month while I load the poll?
Sure. And then one other thing that somebody brought up that we don't have on the list today is the self-service for password reset. So that is in our development queue, but the ones that we talked about it today are further along in development and will be coming sooner. And so obviously you might want to set your password reset time to be, 2 minutes now, but when self-service is there, you might change your mind and say, okay, maybe it should be 15 minutes or 30 minutes since the self-service option is there. So again, like that's not, it is in our roadmap, but it's not as soon in the roadmap as the things that we talked about today. Okay, so I will steal the screen for a moment.
That poll should pop up for everyone as well, hopefully.
It's popped up for me, so I'll share my other screen. So I just wanted to show you some of the things that people have been doing in plans, because a lot of times when there's things that you're doing repetitively, the analysts don't really want all the clicks in the system to be in their test script. So, working with various ones of you over the year, when you were doing a domain validation, they wanted to go in and do their domain validation and just wanted more of a tick list to sign off on. I mean, because the whole thing is accountability. And if an analyst has said they've done their testing and there's a place for them to sign off, then they maybe don't want, they want a line that says that they opened and closed all applications, not the actual steps to open and close all applications. So a lot of clients have started using TransIT plans for those kinds of sign off tick list type things. And I'm going to just show you 2 examples today, because one is using columns and one is using rows, and we can talk about what the differences are. So in this case, it's where they're signing off on the columns. So this is a client who's using Kairos for their self-scheduling. And so as they add new providers in, there's a whole bunch of things that they have to do for the providers that they want to have a tick list. So these are the provider names here, and they want to make sure they've validated the name and the suffix, the photo, if there's a bio, all these different things. And so as they tick these off, it updates the percentage complete across the row. So that's like one sort of a checklist type plan that people are using. And it has the ability, it's nice because it's integrated with the issues database. So you can right click to log issues, etc. Your status is automatically updated for you. If you tick the wrong row, you can untick it and it'll back down your percentage as well. So a lot of clients are using this kind of plan. And this is again where each of these rows is a different person, and these are all the tasks that you're doing for that particular provider. The one negative on doing a plan this way is it doesn't allow you to put into the an assigned person. So what you actually can do though is if there's a specific person, so if the bio was marketing and you wanted to put the person's name, the only way that you could do that right now, because you obviously don't want to have an assigned column beside each row, is you would go to customize columns and you would look for where your bio is, and you can do, as the name. And then when you go back to your plan and hover, it'll show you that that's who it's assigned to. So, like I said, clients are starting to use this a lot. Another example, and I think I have it here. No, it's over here. Sorry, is the other direction. So this is a client who needed to add beds to their bed master. And so these are the bed numbers going across here. And so, you know, they have a certain number of systems that have either unit-based or bed-based rules. So they need to validate each of the beds. So these are the beds, and then these are the solutions where they need to check in, and these are the people assigned. So this is nice as well, because this person, as they have to check each of the beds in the downstream system, they can go across and they can click the % complete here. And again, you're not making the analyst call out all of their individual steps. They're just saying, yes, they went in and validated in Cerner Core that they didn't fat finger. So this is like a really good use of it, is where, you know, it's a manual build in 10 different systems, and you need to make sure that they all, that no one fat fingered anything. So in this one, again, like I said, the advantage is that the person clicks across their row, and apparently I'm responsible for more than one. So I guess I should have been smart and put the ones that were me all together. So I would tick across my rows that I had validated, you know, these things. Anyway, so people are starting to use plans more. I do think they're really good for checklist type activities. So, you know, you might say, okay, maybe a domain validation isn't a checklist. Maybe you do want to be directive to them to what the things are that they do. But again, it might not be, you know, log in with your username and password, click this, click this, click this. You might want to have a list of things to say, you know, validate all applications open and close, validate that your patient lists work. But doing it in a plan allows you to make it more easier for the end user to utilize. Does anybody have any questions about that? The other thing I would say about plans is where it's nice as well is there's not a lot of tools that are organization based, so that when you've got, like in this example here where I was showing where they've got marketing doing some of the tasks and IT doing some of the tasks, you know, doing it in some other kind of a tool usually involves additional licensing, whereas in TransIT, it's organization wide.
Patty, the access team is using it for unit testing as well. So just if you wanted another example, they've got all of the PM conversations, and then the columns are like rules, fields, code set filtering. Yeah, so they're doing that with the plan too.
So right, and it's the same thing that they know their conversations, so they just, yeah, that's a great example.
Chelsea, do you guys use that for like tracking environment refresh steps and things like that?
Not the plans. That's a good idea though. Since we've got 3 coming up. No, we've just got a good old Excel spreadsheet. So maybe I'll send that right over to Brian.
There you go.
That's a good idea. Like deprod and refresh steps. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All right. So if we can move on from that, unless anyone else has any more comments or questions for Patty on plans and using them for testing.
No, but I noticed we closed the poll before I could vote, but that's okay.
I'm sure I could get your response offline.
100% of people want it to be client defined, and that doesn't surprise me. I think that's the right way to go as well.
Yeah. So in terms of the test notes page and the filter in the extra column, if you click on your test notes icon here, you'll notice that these 2 columns are now split. So they used to be in the one column, the test script with the test script number. Now they're in separate columns, and you can filter on the number as well. So you can see here, there's a whole bunch of 100s and 101s. If I just wanted to see script number 101, I can now filter on it, where when it was in the one column, the test script, you couldn't filter on the numbers. And vice versa, if you wanted to search on a script name, you can search on the script name as well. So that'll just help with identifying, which scripts you want to work on. If you're working on one script at a time, it's just another option to use. And then the really exciting thing, and I'm sure Patty will chime in at the end, is this little icon here in the middle, the test invites. So now we can send invites for a round of testing, which I mentioned is populated from the roster. So if we go into the roster here, you can see that we've already got a whole bunch of people. So I'm actually going to remove all of these people from the coverage, and I'm going to add myself in as the reg clerk. And you'll see when we go back to our invite page here that I now populate here. And then all of your roster positions will populate based on the day. So once we add more people in, you'll see that more people are here. And if we wanted to click on my name and send an invite, we hit send invite. And when we go back in here, you can see here that an email was sent. It will now add an email and a text message or whatever my user settings are within TransIT. It'll send me a notification and we'll actually put it on my calendar and say you're blocked off for this day that's starting from this day you're required for a round of testing. So for example, if you have an individual that has positions on day 1, 3, 5, and 7, you obviously don't want them to be scheduled for day 2, 4, and 6. So this will help effectively manage their time. If you wanted to cancel this invite, you would just click it and hit cancel invite. It will then send you a cancellation note via your email and text if you have that set up. And you can see over here that it's canceled as well. If we wanted to do multiple people, we could just go into the roster here and add Patty in. And we can add Brian in. When we go back to the invites, you can see that both of these have been added in. And you can see the status is nothing. So if we did send the invites, you can send them and they'll update. The really cool thing is you can actually filter on all of these columns. So if you do have, 20 plus different roster positions, you can search on an actual name and just send to the one person. You can click up here and you can click all and send invites. Sorry, Brian and Patty, you're going to get a bunch of emails. And you can see here that they've been updated. And then if I just wanted to cancel myself again, I can just cancel one.
So the thing about this one, well, that I just realized the other day in working with a person who's trying to look at ROI associated with TransIT, and I said to her, well, do you send out test invites now to the entire team for the entire round of testing? And she said, yes, we did. Because so she's wanting to know, they're doing a pilot with us and she's wanting to know how she can calculate actual ROI. And I said, well, if that's what you do now, all we have to do is do one test round and send out the test invites. And in this, it'll tell you how many FTE days you use. And now it's the number of resources times the number of days, because they all get invited for every day. And with using the test invites, it'll only invite them on the days where they actually have steps. So if you go to the integration testing demo below, Travis,
yep,
and go to the test invites there. So here you can see that it not only tells you that you have something that day, it tells you what roles you're responsible for that day. So, that Addison demo is the cath lab nurse, the RT, and the radiation therapist, right? But scrolling down, these are the FTE days. And so you can see that on day 1, there was more invites than on day 3, etc. So they will be able to tell their exact ROI from TransIT for this one particular feature just from this. So it used to be, and if you look at the test planning report, you can see all the white space on a test planning report. So that's how I used to show people that, all those white spaces are where you didn't actually need to invite a role. But now that the test invites are back and you can actually see how many FTE days you're saving. Anyway, I thought that was cool.
Does anyone have any questions on invites? we tried to make it as simple and easy to use. And again, remember, it's only for scenario-based scripts, not functional. Functional will be coming at a later date.
Yeah, and the reason we did that is because in Transit 6, we had invites for scenario. We never had them for functional, but that's close to being ready as well. And so again, you know, generally speaking, you're doing, you know, a round of system testing for X number of days. And so the idea is you work with the app managers and they assign people and then you block their days off for that. So, you know, obviously, having a calendar invite showing there and having that person dedicated to you is not something that's going to actually happen, that you get them for a full 5 days and they don't get pulled away for something else. But at least it makes it easier to secure their time when you can put the invite on their calendar.
We've got a couple of minutes. Does anyone have any other questions not related to anything we discussed today?
Hey, this is Brian. Guys,
Hey, Brian.
I had a question about how the invite appears on the calendar. I apologize if you covered that. Is it blocking it at the top of the calendar, like an all-day testing?
No, it blocks it from the like 8 to 4, and that's an enhancement request that we have out there as well, is to be able to actually choose the amount of time. And that's why we held off on the functional, because for integration testing, it normally is the whole day, but often when you're doing functional testing, you may, you know, not want it to block the whole calendar for the whole time. And so that is part of what's coming out with functional testing, is the ability to choose what date and time, what time of day you want it blocked for. But Travis, do you still have your invite there that you can show on your calendar, or did you cancel all of yours?
I canceled all of mine. It comes through as a notification, Brian, same as you get a notification that you're up for a step. It just, and then it.
No, it doesn't. It comes through as a calendar invite. Yeah,
you still get an email though.
Correct, but the email is a calendar invite. So it actually goes to your calendar, to your Outlook calendar.
I do not have my Outlook.
Okay, so let me share my screen.
No, it makes sense. I mean,
yeah,
what a calendar invite looks
I mean,
like.
it's so much easier than, as a testing coordinator, having to look this up in TransIT, look up what their schedules are, and then open up your Outlook or whatever your calendar system is, and re-entering all that information to block off their time.
Oh yeah, preach. I totally agree.
Yeah, so Brian put in the chat what it looks like. So it just looks like a regular calendar invite like that. And then again, inside the message, when you open it up, it tells you what positions you're expected to do that day.
Love it. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Brian Gray, for putting that in. Any other questions? And I'll record your response, Travis. You put in the chat. I'll make sure that gets passed along as well.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Well, have a great Friday afternoon, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.